stealing my dad's roses, getting a new project out that I've been plugging away at for donkeys, and a swim in the Baltic Irish Sea. There are a million things that I'm thankful for today, but what is my guest thankful for?
I think it was a nice opportunity to go experiment with redefining ourselves. I remember arriving in Whistler first and going, maybe I won't be a jock this time, maybe I'll try to be a hippie, and then I found I had no rhythm and I couldn't play a drum.
I'm Angela Scanlon and welcome to Thanks a Million, where we explore our guests' personal gratitude lists to find out the things that have shaped their lives. Now, before I get into my guest today, have you seen my new project? Yeah, the one I referenced up above. It's called Freckle. It's spelled F-R-K-L. We just dropped the vowels because that's what the cool kids are doing. It is a buildable, customisable jewellery collection that I have been working my little arse off on for a couple of years and longer in my head, which is usually where these things start. I've been wearing it on my socials on Instagram for a little while now, teasing, just whetting the old palette. So if you like the gold on gold look, then have a go. You can find it at myfreckle, F-R-K-L, on Instagram or myfreckle.com. I hope you love it. Okay, on to today's episode. 2 for the price of 1, because I'm all about the value. Steve and Dave, the ridiculously enthusiastic Irish twins and founders of The Happy Pear. Spelled P-E-A-R, not P-A-I-R. If you're not familiar, it is a plant-based cooking and lifestyle company with #1 best-selling cookbooks as well as food products, online courses, 2 whole food retail cafes and shops, a farm, a roastery and a community of over 1 million people who are following their advice for a healthier life. Their mission, and it is a mission, I think as soon as you hear them talk, you realise that it's not just all handstands and porridge. The mission for the lads is to create a happier, healthier world and build community. And they're absolutely smashing it. I mean, they started a thing called Swimrise a few years ago, which kind of feels, although people may object to this suggestion, that they kind of spawned that mad interest and commitment from people, certainly in Ireland, into cold water swimming and sea swimming. And you'll see them in their droves down on Greystones Beach at sunrise every morning, no matter what the weather, having their tea, having a splash around and just hanging out. This summer, they released their 5th book, Vegan Cooking for Everyone. And if you haven't come across them yet, then I'm thrilled to be introducing you to them. And you're going to learn that they weren't always the visions of health that they are now, which is quite nice to know that they just didn't fall onto the planet like that, you know? There's a journey. And they've got a lot to be thankful for over the years. Before we get into that, what are you thankful for this week? Every day I wake up and feel like I can kick ass out of my anxiety, depression and smash the day. Go Dukes. My sister-in-law had a beautiful, healthy baba. Whole family are on a high. Oh, there's literally nothing, is there? Like the sweet, smelly head of a newborn. Holly, my grown children, husband, sunshine, fog and the sea. Whoa, that sounded like Carol Kirkwood on the morning weather. My new Hunza swimsuit. I got one of those recently. And a holiday in 2 weeks. I don't have one of them anytime soon. And just being alive. There's lots of just being alive ones. I like that. Keep sending them in. Use the hashtag #ThanksAMillionTrio or get me on at Angela Scanlon on Instagram. Right, to the Happy Pear. In our chat, we talk about, well, a lot. There are 2 of them. I don't get a word in, which is unusual, but also fine. We chat about being a twin. Travelling and finding who you are, nature and our harmony with the world, the importance of discomfort and business, and of course, beloved Ireland. The lads, in fact, are sitting looking over the sea as we speak, with a train line running along the front. So if you hear the train, that's what it is. It's authentic, which is on brand, okay? So deal with it. As you might expect, the language is a little saucy in parts. Prepare to feel alive. If you liked Wim Hof, you're going to like this buzz. So brace yourself for the bundles of energy that are Steve and Dave, aka The Happy Pear. Hi lads.
All right, Angela.
I've just eaten some raw chocolate nuts, you'll be glad to hear.
Oh, we were just eating chocolate pellets that someone said. Very nice chocolate.
Oh, it looks lovely. Nice. And a bit of juice there.
It's actually
down the hatch.
cordyceps mushroom tea, Angela. Come on, like.
Is it? In what kind of bottle? Oh, a recyclable
It's just
bottle.
like a tin bottle or a metal bottle, one of those.
Okay, and is it the powdered stuff, or do you get the actual little worm all the way from China?
No, I just said powder, and then I put a bit of tincture in just for added nitros.
A bit of tincturing. What kind
Magical
of tincturing?
Herbal remedies. Well, actually, now that we say it, this one is a shiitake. Wild harvests with Kadu plum. So, ooh la la, listen,
there's
sure.
never mind the pellets.
Sure,
Huh? That was only the starter.
It's all going on.
How are you guys? I mean, I did think, how are we going to do this? Usually we're tight enough for time. And I thought the two Flynn twins, high as kites on cordyceps mushrooms
And pellets.
we'll be here for days. But you look the picture of health as usual. And I feel like, I mean, you guys embody this and have done for a very long time. I think that kind of sense of focusing and bringing joy into your everyday lives and being in the present. And, I feel like it's quite on brand for you, being grateful and that as a concept. Is it something that you always did, or have you had to kind of learn it?
I think we were fortunate enough, maybe it's been identical twins or whatever, but we were always one of those people that it could be the most miserable day ever, and there'd be a tiny gap in the clouds and be going, sun's coming out now, can't wait. Ridiculously. And even running a business together, we'd often say Ash, if it all goes belly up, should we go down and sell orange juice down at the train station? We'll have a bit of a laugh.
Jab be grand.
This kind of relentless optimism that, sure, it'll all be fine. As long as we have each other, we'll have a laugh.
Yeah. Well, that's lovely, though. And do you think it comes from being twins, that you're like, do you know what? Actually, if we go down, at least we have each other. There's not that weight of pressure of being a failure in the singular.
I think for sure, because when we kind of boil it back down to lots of things, so many of us are going around looking for other half, in a sense. You're looking for someone else that deeply understands you and is there with you no matter what. We've always had that, always, always, always. So you can tend to take a lot more risks, and and I think that probably is part of why we're so carefree, and compared to our other brothers, for example, who have the same parents in the same environment.
Absolute
they grew up
nightmares.
No, they're not nightmares. No, they are they're wonderful in their own ways, but we're different in another sense, So.
Yeah. So your mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So identical and mirror, or mirror, what is the distinction? Identical and mirror, okay. Level 2, double whammy. But I have friends who are identical, but actually they're very, very different. So you say that it's a kind of given as identical twins, but I don't think it is. I think you guys have quite a...
Maybe we worked on it as well. Maybe it does take... You could kind of... I think you can realise that it's your greatest strength, and it can also have its weaknesses, because there's two of you and you're in your own, the epitome of, the way people are talking about, we're all in our own echo chambers in whatever, we've always been in an echo chamber, because, you're great, Dave. Of course, you're grand, you're really smart. I don't think you're stupid at all.
You're so strong, man.
That's a great idea to jump off that cliff, Dave. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so you're on the same wavelength, always. I love that, though. I do. And actually, it's, you often hear about the kind of struggle with twins to find their own distinct identity. In a way, you've kind of leaned in like the happy pair. You seem happy being, lumped together all the time. Does it ever get annoying?
I think you kind of learn you can't have everything, and you kind of got to learn, like with the nature of, if you're going down for a monogamous relationship, you kind of quickly realize no one's perfect. And you just decide, what challenges do I want to choose? That way. And I think...
But you aren't aware of a lot of them until
we're highly ignorant.
Yeah, of course.
We kind of learned that it's such fun and it's such a laugh. And there's times when you go, shit, I'd like to be, excuse me cursing, but I'd like to be an individual. But back when we were younger, we used to sit beside each other in school. We were the epitome of most of the time you were called Flynn twin, or your main name used was, which one are you? That was the form of greeting. Yeah. So we did spend a couple of years traveling separately, and that was the real opportunity to kind of what am I like without my twin brother? My God, and who am I removed from this? So that was that kind of...
But even college before that, we went to separate universities. So that was a bit like having your right arm, like having one arm or something, because you were missing the other lad, and there was always two of you, and you always got so much attention because there was two and you looked the same, and
of course,
you were kind of loud and gregarious, and then here you were out by yourself and you felt like there was a hole in your head that everyone could see. You know, like that kind of way, like it took a bit of time to get used to that. You know,
that independence almost.
Just that sense of it being an individual,
and probably the vulnerability of it, I'd say. Ultimately.
Yeah, maybe that it's
because when there's two of you, you're even to use the analogy. Say we were going traveling. We used to travel to London a huge amount, and regularly be standing there in the terminal, and the pair of us just go off and do handstands and yoga, and everyone would be watching, and we wouldn't give a damn.
Yeah,
but when you're on your own, you don't do that because you feel like far too weird. But when there's two of you, at least you're weird together. Yeah. You know that way?
If anyone looks at you, go, what are you looking at? Yeah, not quite. Or you can give them that kind of look.
Oh, I love that. Is it true? Now, because I have like a bit of inside info. So you two were like ruggers.
Yeah.
And then you both went off, as you say, like separately, you know, to find yourselves. And when you like regrouped, you had kind of both discovered, almost in tandem, in parallel worlds, similar things and similar outlooks.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we grew up as total jocks, total cavemen, you know, meat and two veg, just getting drunk and just regular Irish lads, but amped up to the max because you're identical twins from an all-boys family, gone to all-boys schools and playing loads of rugby. So we were masculine squared.
On steroids. Yeah, not literally, but
and hyper competitive because you're an identical twin. So we were that really, you know, we were that jock character to the power of two. And then we ended up going away traveling. We kind of felt like there must be more to life after college. Like we were both semi-pro rugby players. I was been off scratching golf. I was going to go be a professional golfer. We were doing modelling at the time. We were studying business. We'd done loads of things that you were meant to do that was meant to make you happy. And underneath it, there was still a kind of, I guess, an emptiness in a sense, or that kind of awareness that there must be more to life. So one Christmas, Steve says to me, Dave, like we were 20 at the time, I think. We just finished college, and Steve said, I'm going away travelling. I'm getting a one-way ticket to Canada. I want to go be a snowboard instructor, and you're not coming with me, Dave. It's like, you what? Happy fucking Christmas, Dave. It's like, yeah, me too. I'm going somewhere by myself, and you're not coming either, Steve. Anyway.
Hey, so bit of a blow.
No, not quite. But we both knew it was kind of time to go do our own thing. So we both went away separately, wandering the world. And
I think it was really the opportunity was to kind of explore our social conditioning. Because you know the way, at least growing up in Ireland, you're kind of, by the local parish, you're being told who Angela should be or who Stephen should be. And to be a good lad, what you should do. And I think it was a nice opportunity to go experiment with redefining ourselves. I remember arriving in Whistler first and going, maybe I won't be a jock this time. Maybe I'll try to be a hippie. I grew my hair long. I bought a djembe drum. I started trying to play this, and I'm going to be a hippie. I'm definitely going to try on being a hippie. And then I found out I had no rhythm and I couldn't play a drum, so I swapped it for a tent. And then I decided I'm going to be a kind of semi-homeless person, and I lived in the woods in a tent for a bit. And you know, we tried lots of different things. This is you didn't travel with a mobile phone. This was back when you checked your email once a month.
Yeah, so you weren't having these conversations going, I'm kind of playing with this or I'm dabbling with this. You were very much like separate.
Yeah, completely separate. And we'd both kind of, before we had left, we'd ran a marathon, because that was January. We'd ran a marathon that October, and we had gave up alcohol 2 weeks before, which was a huge thing. Yeah. And we said we were eating brown bread instead of white bread. Like we were doing a detox, and it was literally just eating brown bread instead of white bread. It was eating bran flakes instead of corn flakes. It was no alcohol and more fruit or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
But the big thing was no alcohol, and we felt good, so we kept doing it until Christmas. So the seed was planted before we left, and by the time when we went away separately, we both ended up continuing that curiosity into food, and we kind of, before we knew it, we were talking on the phone, and I've been eating a vegan diet for a month. And he's like, jeez, I fucking am one too. I go like, when did this happen? You know, and you're talking about this. So we had both kind of changed our diets and had given up alcohol, and had all these different things that kind of happened, coincided.
Mad. Yeah. And then you came back together, and obviously people in Ireland will know the story, and probably in the UK as well at this stage. But you came back and opened a veg shop, which was like pretty lo-fi.
Oh, yeah, totally lo-fi. Like,
Just to give a context, we left as these two lads, like two identical twins that were loudmouths, rugby playing, point swilling, cavemen, jocks, short back and sides, we'd Nike Air Max, Ralph Lauren shirts. Yeah, we're the men. And then we came back 2 years later as these long-haired hippies that like wore trinkets and beads. Stephen used to paint his fingernails. We wore like plaid pants and long shirts, and we had top knots and beards, and we were starting a vegetable shop, and we were now vegan, and we didn't drink alcohol. So like obviously people thought we were complete and utter weirdos.
Absolute weirdos. And it was like, it would have been what, late 90s, early 2000s,
2003, 2004.
Okay.
That cusp, so.
Yeah, but like it was Celtic Tiger Ireland, so people were kind of out like living the high life, and you guys, like you say, were wearing trinkets and selling turnips.
Yeah, it was quite a change. Like a lot of mum and dad's friend kind of believed we were kind of selling drugs down the back of the shop, you know.
Oh,
what happened to the lads?
Oh, geez, the poor lads. Jeez, they've really lost their way.
Oh,
you know,
they were so fantastic when they were playing
there was a fair
rugby.
bit of that. Yeah.
Handsome fellas and everything. What?
And now look at them. Jesus, they've really lost their way. And their cabbages are very overpriced. And the state of their carrots. Jesus, like.
So, apart from each other, what are you thankful for today?
Oh, definitely my daughters. They're like my reason for everything. They're just amazing. They open my heart like anything else. I jump in front to anything for them. So that's
How many?
Two. They're near.
Two.
There's 10 and nearly 8. So that's what I'd
10
say.
and 8, good age. And when you say open your heart, I like that. The world kind of wants you to close your heart, to protect you. And it takes quite a bit of defiance and bravery to like live wide open. And I think you guys, you know, I think you both do that.
Yeah, and I think kids kind of like certainly having daughters coming from all boys families and very male upbringings to have 2 daughters and be learning about what's the difference between a dress and a skirt. And Izzy was wearing culottes yesterday. Well, no, we're very basic now. So, but learning all these things like, you know, learning how to tie pigtails and how to do a knot, how to do these type of things, and I'm not allowed to do them anymore, but like just all the little things that you go through having daughters is such a special relationship.
Yeah, I think the dad-daughter thing is very, is a beautiful dynamic actually.
I think it just allows you to adore them, like absolutely full out adore them. And I'll often say, like, we'll be walking down the road and I'll go, do you know something, girls? And they go, Daddy, we know you love us.
Oh.
We know you think we're amazing, Daddy. We know. You know.
But did you guys get that a lot at home growing up?
It was love in action rather than verbalised.
Okay. And love in action by your dinner was on the table or like support? Or...
Mum was amazing.
Yeah, both. Mum would have been
Mum
very
would have been
supportive and
amazing.
always there,
Mum would have been
for us.
sheesh,
But maybe like our approach to parenting is much more you want to tell them all the time. Listen, you're just my heart is exploding with love for you. Just in case, just in case I'm run over later. You know I absolutely adore you and I do anything for you. You know that? Yeah. Okay, great.
No, lovely. But like the fuel that gives you as much as them, it's like such a... Yeah, it comes back, doesn't it?
It's way more for you, for us, I think, than them. They don't care less.
They're like,
you know,
Jesus.
They feel it anyway, like, I think.
I think parenting, it's the greatest joy or love I've ever experienced, and the other side, it's the greatest challenge. And it's often, at least before I was a parent, you're seldom told that it's both. Like that if you want to experience those remarkable emotions, you gotta be willing to go through the struggle.
Yes.
Pay the price, and I think that's an important part of it. And that paying the price, there's beauty in that too.
Yeah.
Because it forces you to evolve, forces you to be kind, it forces you to, you know, address some issues.
Totally. And I also think there's no running away from those issues. You're kind of confronted with these little people and like little traumas that you've packed away, and suddenly you're like, oh my God, she's so tiny. I was this age when such and such. You have it. I think you find the little version of yourself by seeing your kids kind of, you know, unfold. I think that idea of like embracing the emotions across the spectrum, that's also profound.
And such a challenge. Like we grew up, and I'm sure you were similar, in a different kind of, you know, it was a different generation. It was the tail end of children should be seen and not heard. So you didn't really whinge, you just kind of got on with it. That was what you were told.
And that was good. You were good if you didn't whinge.
You were rewarded if
you were told you were
like
great.
not demanding.
And you didn't, when you fell and you didn't cry that much, you're so strong, and you're like, yes, I'm so strong. And inside you're, I'm so strong. strong. But like I see with my own children, like my wife is, you know, a psychologist, and she's very in touch with the kids expressing their emotion and whinging and moaning until the cows come home, and I'm going, stop fucking moan. You know, that way it screams out of my body, and I'm kind of like, okay, I gotta sit here and just
listen.
Tell me more.
Yeah.
It's good. Like more about why you feel crap. Yeah. Very interesting.
But I also think it's the language, isn't it? Around they're able to articulate their emotions in a way that we were like. I don't think I even knew the word emotion. Like, I think that's all a relatively new concept, to be exploring your feelings and giving space to those emotions. Like, I think you were either like happy was good. Keep that smile on your face. Sad, it's a bit annoying or inconvenient. We're trying to get in the car. We're out the door. We don't have time for like that kind of messing. And suddenly I think kids are more equipped with the language for their, for what they're going through. That it also teaches us, I think.
Yeah, I think really well said. Yeah, very well said. Because maybe there wasn't space for it. Maybe there wasn't space for it. Good one. I was going to go with something a lot more functional, less romantic. The question about what are you grateful today? I was going to say my microorganisms.
Here
he's going.
He's off.
So, we've been kind of really delving into, you know, our microbiome and the fact that we have about 100 times more microorganisms than we do human cells, and that they function so many different things in our body, and we're so at the mercy of them. We like to think that we're self-determining, self-directed humans, but it kind of reminds me more about the kind of the interrelationship of life, and that how our microbial health hugely affects our overall health, what foods we crave, it can affect our moods, and we're so dependent on these, and also how our environment is all linked. And the more I delve into this area of science, I'm just fascinated with it. So I'm grateful for the little unseen microorganisms that keep me healthy, strong and well, and connect me to the rest of nature.
Done, Stephen.
Do you know what? Wow. I love that. And that was beautifully concise, which I'm not very good at today. But actually, that idea of being connected. And I think, you know, lockdown has kind of given us a little sense of that, because we've been literally looking out the window at the seasons changing and feeling kind of a part of that rather than dipping in and out of it maybe. But when you talk about like microbes, are we talking about gut specifically, or you're talking about like literally licking a fern when you go for a run and being like off the land?
All of those. Both. Everyone.
All of those.
There's more microbial, like there's so much microbes everywhere. Like we live in a planet that's so diverse in them. And we think they just live in our gut, but they're in every function of our body, in every cell, in every, there's so much microbial intelligence in this planet. And I guess it's the more we can connect with that, I think the more we can open ourselves up to. And so you're talking about
the intelligence in plants, the intelligence that lives underneath our feet in mushrooms, let's say.
I'm not going wackadoo here now, but if you break
well, go a bit, because I'm really into this.
Well, like if you break it down, so as Stephen said, we've got 10x the amount of microbes in us. We've got 100x the amount of genetic material that are microbial intelligence. So, and they all live in our gut. And the main thing which you can do to kind of like, we live in a symbiotic relationship between ourselves and nature. And over in our lifetime, it's been, as humans, we've just been dominating nature, and our health has been deteriorating, the planet has been deteriorating. And I think it all comes back to the same thing. Our microbes is one of the main ways that we are connected and really visually can see that we're symbiotic with nature and with one another. You know, you hear these expressions, we are all one, and you kind of go, that sounds wackadoo, that sounds really woo-woo.
What does that actually mean?
But it does mean, in terms of microbial, you know, activity, there's so much.
Even to bring it down to something a little bit more tangible. So we were talking about mushrooms earlier, and if you ever dig up the soil, you might see this kind of little white kind of film in the soil, and that's known as a mycelium network. Microbial. And this is often where mushrooms will share minerals, it's like a data cable in a weird way. They can share nutrients, they can communicate.
Like internet under the ground.
Yeah, in essence. Mm-hmm. And I think there's that ability, you know, there's the Secret Life of Trees, a book recently published, you know, just showing how trees, even planted in soil that they're not typically in any way suitable for a tree to grow. It can share minerals from another tree that's in a healthy soil to create a nice environment. And I think similarly, humans, so much of our modern day existence is caught in our cerebral matter. And I think the more we can kind of, tune more into our intuition and the fact that we are very interdependent, I think we can reach a different level of intelligence.
Done. Love that.
Very concise. I love that. That was way I was fumbling.
On a tangible level, what is the easiest way for us to improve?
Spend time in nature.
I think two things. Even if you look at the dictionary says the material world excluding humans. So I think first thing is to remember that we are mammals. We're albeit sophisticated mammals right now that are communicating digitally, but we're mammals. Yeah. We're sophisticated animals, and I think it's to remember that we're at the mercy of this wonderful planet and all the other beings of it. And I think the more we have the humility in terms of that, I think the more we spend time...
And the respect.
Yeah, and the reverence and the gratitude. And I think the other simple things we can do is spend more time in nature, spend more time trying to eat more fruit and veg because they're high in fibre, and that's a prebiotic.
And local, right?
Yeah. And things that are grown in good soil.
Last thing on this was, we're nearly the same genetic makeup as silverback gorillas. We're 97% the same. They're our cousins to some degree. And they live in East Africa, and they just live in the trees, and they eat all loads of fibre and whatever. And they have their microbial, their microbiomes is 7x ours. And their symbiosis with their natural habitat is so in perfect harmony. Whereas, I think we're kind of slightly out of harmony in many ways with the natural world. These are a collection of half-baked ideas, but we're very curious about this.
They'll eventually get baked.
Yeah.
Hopefully before it's too late. What is the thank you next?
I got one.
Can I go?
Yeah, of course.
You've
been really concise. You're lovely.
Okay, so running a business back a number of years ago, we borrowed a 7-figure sum of money. So we borrowed $1.5 million. And we were really going at growing the business. We had, over that year, we kind of started supplying products into Waitrose. We'd just crossed 10 million in sales. We'd reached 200 employees. It was like, woohoo! You're going places,
we're
lads.
on.
Oh, we're on fire, and we're going to open more cafes, and we're going to make plant-based food really available. And go get them, lads. And I think it's very easy, at least for us, who were responsible responsible for the business, to get caught up in that. Wow, lads, you're doing great. You're so successful. What are you doing with all the money? Things like this. Yeah. But at the other side of it, we found we weren't swimming in the sea as much. I found I wasn't seeing as much of my family. Every time I go down to Perville, where we produce a lot of our food, you were meeting new people that were employees, but you didn't know who the hell they were, and you felt no connection to them. So you were kind of like, wow, what's happening here? Anyway, we met this really cool man who Dave did his thesis on, who was age 84. And it happened he just kind of arrived. His wife was doing a photography project, and she was doing it in twins, and she flew over from London. Her assistant that day happened to be the great Charles Handy, who David written his thesis on. He was like, "You're Charles Handy!" And we started talking about the business, and he kind of said, "It seems like you're at a bit of a crossroads here, lads. Do you want to come over and over to Cambridge to my farm, and we'll have a chat?" And I was like, "We'd love to! Oh my God, what a dream!"
And sorry, just a little side note as to Charles Handy, because I may be just purely ignorant, but I don't know
He's a business philosopher who would have been on the board of the Body Shop.
He sold millions of copies of books. His dad would have had all his books, so he's more probably relevant to our parents' generation.
But his message is
but he's
forever
a guru.
relevant. Just a wonderful wise man. And we had a great afternoon chatting with him, discussing what is enough and what is success. And through that, we kind of really questioned, why were we doing this?
Why we're so
gave us meaning?
Growth.
And through that process, and I guess over the last year, we've kind of tried to get the business back to more its roots and try to get it more, try to build a lifestyle which, where we weren't stressed and where we get to do things we love and work with people that we love. And, that's it. So I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah.
And
good man, Steve.
Thanks.
Great job.
I think that is so relevant, though, because you're cheered on from the sidelines, and actually the bigger you get, the more frantic it becomes, the more successful you are, and you're thinking it's kind of out of whack with why you started doing it in the first place, which was to have a rounded kind of life that you were in control of.
Yeah, I'm almost feeling like a bit of a fraud. The way you're kind of standing there kind of going, and people are saying, "Oh, geez, you're called the happy pair," and underneath you're feeling it like a duck on water. You're feeling a bit stressed. You're feeling a bit like, shit, I haven't seen my family that much this week. You're just, it just didn't feel as integral or as congruent. So I'm really grateful for the fact that we've kind of had that opportunity over the last year to kind of really try to get back to our roots and try to find that, connect with that honesty again. Not that we were dishonest, but, just you can kind of lose your way a bit, or we lost our way a bit.
Yeah, I can see how you would be seduced into wanting to grow, and the idea of growth, and I mean growth on a balance sheet being, the be all and end all, as opposed to personal growth, which sometimes there's not much room for when you're literally producing like a maniac.
Yeah, very well said.
Great. And my thing, which I'm grateful for, and mine's more personal, that I've
He's showing you.
He was great. So yeah, I'm grateful for back 7 years ago. Like, I'd been married and then we got separated 7 years ago, and that was a really challenging experience, and one which was really painful. But going through that, I've grown so much and become so much more aware, and opened me up to so many things. And now I've got a very good relationship.
You're a much more evolved human out there.
More in my own relationship with myself. It's not necessarily about others. More in my own relationship with myself. And I think it's sometimes through those really deeply challenging things, like the stress, the challenges of all those difficult conversations or whatever, and to face it and kind of go through it and come out the other side, it certainly stripped me of lots of different things and humbled me to an extent, which is great. And now I've got a very good relationship with my kids' mom. We have a really good relationship where, co-parenting, and have been since we got through that very difficult initial period. And that's been a really good, really beautiful experience.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And maybe it's with hindsight, you're able to look back exactly that, and go, I have grown. I'm better for that. When you're in the midst of it, it's, the worst thing that can happen. But actually, like, going back to that spectrum of emotions, that's kind of why we're here, isn't it?
Yeah.
To feel the whole gamut. And, in a sense, and I don't know if this is scientifically or technically true, but I feel like in a way, the lower you go, the higher you can soar on the other side. That's quite a painful way to live sometimes.
No, but
actually,
I would agree in lots of ways, like the importance of discomfort, like the kind of that stoic ideology that, it's only through discomfort can you really appreciate comfort. And it's true, that ability, as you mentioned, to go down, it almost widens that bandwidth for your ability to experience life.
Totally. And it just, again, I think it's like opening you up, and sometimes it's deeply uncomfortable and deeply painful, as you say, but actually then when you come out, there is an appreciation for like much simpler things, even a level. And then when you get back up, you're like, dude, I thought this was gone forever. And you're like, don't take those things for granted anymore.
Yeah, I think really well said.
Beautiful.
It's good. Okay, is there a thanks that got away?
I got one.
Okay, you got one. Okay, you start.
I got one. I remember being like 17 or 18 or something, and we used to play a load of golf, and we were quite good at it. And I remember there was the Wicklow boys golf competition, and that was like the county championship. And I remember we were playing a little bit of golf, and it turned out like after the first or the second day I was winning it, and I was beating a few lads who were playing for Ireland, and it was like people would have been waiting for me to choke or whatever. And I remember going into the last round and feeling nervous, and I remember there was this old man from our own golf club, Brian O'Connor. And he walked along with me and we chatted away, and he was the most calm, serene, easygoing man. I didn't even know I was playing golf. And
what do you mean by that? That sounds a bit weird.
But I was just having such a pleasant time and lost in our chat. And I remember it just, he really, whatever the heck happened that day, like I ended up winning it. I shot a crazy good round and I beat everyone. And I remember that day, and then he died soon after that. And I remember kind of going, he was very influential. I don't think he even knew he was.
Right.
But certainly in my experience, I felt like he had brought something to me that was like this wise old kind of magical
sage.
I don't know how to describe it, but like in a movie, this kind of magical person shows up and guides you along and shows you can do better than you think. And that was a beautiful experience.
That's lovely, Brian.
Brian O'Connor.
So he kind of took away the pressure and anxiety and allowed you to relax into what you were able to do, kind of.
Yeah, I think it was almost like that he kind of got me out of my head completely, where the way they say, people will say, where you get in the flow, where you don't you're not doing, it's just
literally
happening.
Written down flow.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the heartfelt answer this time.
There we go.
My daughter May is named after my granny, and our granny used to be this real special lady that we used to, like, as teenagers, the way in Ireland you used to, I'm sure anyone listening, you'd go and you'd drink your cans on the beach, a bag of cans, you take.
Yeah.
On rainy days, we used to go into grannies all the lads, and we'd sit around Granny's and drink our cans. And Granny would say, don't tell your parents now, don't tell your parents. We used to just have a great laugh and a great chat. And we used to always kind of say nice compliments to Granny, and she'd always go, I don't believe you lads, I think you're full of crap. You know, she just didn't believe that we were actually saying them. And one of the nicest moments I ever experienced, when our first child was born, not mine and Dave's, but mine and my wife's, I remember calling my granny up crying and going, Granny, we decided to call her May after you. And I remember my granny just going, well, that's the nicest thing I could have ever heard. That just means all those nice things you've been saying for the last 25 years are all true. And she was 90, and she nearly ran up to meet her, and it was just one of the most beautiful moments. And it's something that, and every time, like my little daughter, it's like, oh, you're like your granny or my granny, and it's just this lovely togetherness, and
Oh, that's gorgeous. And actually, like what you were saying earlier on, that you're showing love rather than just saying, because I think a lot of us are thought, oh, yes, say it, but actually it's the meaning behind it, isn't it? So that's like the ultimate show of respect to the matriarch.
Yeah.
Cute. I love that, Granny May. I love that one. Okay, is there a big thank you?
Okay, can I go off on a little one? As I,
go for it.
I'm 40. We are 41, and we've lived in this little rock called Ireland for the majority of our life. And as I grow older, I tend to fall more and more in love with this little island and its folklore and its history. And it's very easy growing up in Irish schools to kind of push away Irish and just go, that archaic language that people don't use. And we were recently listening to a podcast and discussing it. What was his name? John O'Donoghue.
Oh, the poet.
Yeah. And it was an
amazing.
interview he did before he died. And I remember just listening to him describe the land and just the language and even the weather. It made me feel like, what a magical island we're living on. And over the last kind of 256 days I've been learning Irish every day, and it's really kind of I can speak a few languages, and I've always felt a bit guilty that I kind of almost like cheating on someone at home, the way that your Irish is pretty crap and you can be a bit resentful to it. But I guess to bring it back to the topic of grateful, I'm very grateful for this little island and its history and its past. And even there the other day, we were down on the beach, and Liam Wanley, the singer, just showed up, and he gave us this book by this guy Monken, which had, I think, was 32 words for the sea.
No, it was a bunch of words describing the sea, ancient Irish words, and we brought it down.
Describing the sea.
Yeah, and like it's not like it's a grey sea, it's a blue sea. It's like all these ancient words for like shaft of light behind clouds that indicate stormy weather coming. Like,
and is this in Irish?
It's all in Irish.
So wait, can I just stop you there? Last week I spoke to Emma Dabbery, the author. Irish author.
Okay.
And Irish was one of her thank yous. The Irish language, and recently falling back in love with the Irish language and how that connects to everything, and how language is more than just words. It's a paradigm through which we see everything. And she said she had just read a book called 32 Words for Fields.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. Monk on. Yeah, but and it's amazing, like even the other day, like you were rooting through it, and a number of them were like really miserable. Like you were kind of reading it going, oh my God, there's a lot of misery in our past. Like, it was like, when you go up to the sea and it's quiet and you can hear the moans of...
You can hear the whispers
and the moans of the past. And you're like, okay, give us another one, Dave. That one doesn't sound so nice.
but like there's a depth and there's a kind of like folklore. But I think we're all like mad, witchy, druidy types. Like, and you guys, you're like packaged in a different way. But like, you're also whispering to the sea every day. Do you know what I mean? You might be a bit LA, but you're still feckin' chatting to the sea. So I think it's in the DNA.
Totally.
That slight, like, kind of dreamers and the whole saints and scholars thing. I don't know. I think Irish people, aside from all of the stereotypes that are more international, are deeply feeling, sensitive humans that are massively connected with the land and the cycles historically, and I think that we kind of don't understand or know how to articulate that, but we are like of the land.
Yeah, totally. Yes, I think, but if I was to try to summarize my gratitude towards maybe it's toward that sense of the past, that often being Irish we can kind of modern day culture very much romanticizes, progress, industrialization and disconnection from the land.
Yeah,
but
sophistication.
Yeah, but I'd have a huge reverence for the kind of, the old, or the times that have gone up beyond, that sense of context, the struggles that our foremothers and forefathers have gone through to kind of give us this privilege that we have now. So I'd have a huge respect, reverence and gratitude for all that.
Yeah.
Jeez, what a scholar. When Angela mentioned that word scholar, you thought, I'm going to up my game.
He was like, let me show you what a scholar is, bitch.
I got it. Yeah.
Okay, you're up.
I was going to say, like, we're sitting here looking at the sea, so I just have to say the sea, because it's been such a part of our lives for the last 7 years, and over the last year and a half, it's been the anchor of our life, really, because it's, we swim in the sea every day. We've grown up beside the sea, and I guess the only time I can really, you cannot take it for granted, because we lived in the same town that we grew up in, and it wasn't until I went away traveling and I ended up in the jungle for about 2 or 3 weeks, in Costa Rica, and it happened again in Borneo, and I remember not feeling myself at all.
Really?
Because there was no expanse. Like, I was so used to this massive expanse. I don't feel good. I'm going to go for a walk around with the sea, and you see this massive expanse of sea and horizon and sky, and you kind of just feel like, okay, I'm tiny, I'm insignificant, it's grand.
It gives you context every single day. You're like, I'm a minuscule part of this gig.
Yeah, whereas in the jungle, you were sitting there and I couldn't see the sky, and there's so much stuff going on that it was suffocating, to a sense that it was like, I need to go see the sea. Where's the sea? Like, and there was, and that bit was kind of crazy. And then it's been, I guess we swim in it every day and have done for years. And particularly over the last year and a half, it's been the anchor, the cornerstone of socializing, because people still swam, they still kept their distance and did all those things, but there was still human activity, and it connects us with nature. It connects us. It's just such an epitome connection, as you said earlier, that we seem to be disconnected from seasons. Well, like swimming the sea every day, you see the tidal changes, you see the
sunrise cycle, even just the
where the sun
change,
rises, where the moon
temperature
is the temperature change.
Yes.
Oh, it's a north wind. Oh, it's a south wind. Oh, geez, it's that freezing cold northwest wind today. And these kind of things which you never thought you'd become a mariner, but you kind of are secretly becoming a mariner, and you're kind of secretly proud of it.
You're loving it.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a thank fuck for this?
Oh, is that
I was going to say that. I was going to say that too.
We literally looked at each other. I was like, okay, I think we
it
get
has
this
to
one.
be the other lad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The other lads.
Yeah, I think being twins, it just gives, as we kind of said earlier, it gives that kind of almost that security and safety for each of us to be a little bit more brazen than we would be as individuals.
And more playful, I'd say, because you're not really...
Yeah, and even like when we used to go over to London regularly, and you'd be sitting on the plane or walking off the plane going, geez, it's so good to be away on holidays. And it's like, oh yeah, shit, we're working. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, we're working.
Because there's just that sense of joy and excitement, and what are we going to do today, Dave? I know we got loads of work stuff to do, but geez, what do we do in between? That way.
Yeah, but also your work had become, it feels like that's kind of threaded through everything that you guys do. And I don't know, I know authenticity is a word that's kind of bandied around a lot. Has being a twin allowed you to kind of lean into that? And it feels like you didn't necessarily have to conform, certainly not for as long as most people do.
It allows you to be a lot more idiosyncratic and quite comfortable in your idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, probably more
because you got a
so.
wingman.
Yeah,
You got a wingman, and
do you ever watch that Simon Sinek one where there's a party happening, or there's no one dancing? There's a party there and there's no one dancing. There's music playing. There's one person dancing, and he says the most important person is the second person, not the first person, because up until that point, that person dancing is weird. They're strange, and as soon as they got a follower, it's those people. And I think it's the same way. I think that's a great metaphor for life, that sense of if you can find a community or someone that will, be there for you at that time, I think it makes life richer, and it makes you maybe more secure.
Well, so many people are searching for, wholeness, and they search in, many different ways for many decades or ever for a lot of people. And it kind of feels like, that sense of belonging maybe that a lot of people spend years searching for. You didn't have that kind of, void, I suppose, that a lot of people have.
Yeah, kind of never had that void. So have always had that.
We'd have lots of other voids now.
We'd have loads
in that department. We were lucky in that department.
But in terms of security, we're both.
And the same way
we're all out looking for fun most of the time.
And the same way we're running a business, there's a huge amount of pros and equally as much, if not more, of cons. Because we often don't have to discuss things. Because, you can kind of just, even looking at him, I know what he's thinking. And the same way with the other people working with us, I feel like I don't have to discuss that. You get it, like. So we often don't articulate, aren't terribly explicit, expect people to understand what we mean. So we're just...
Because that communication has been so...
taken for granted. And you can almost expect others to... I got to talk to tell you what I'm thinking. That way. So it's a bit.
This is a drag.
Yeah, like in a weird way, and it's not obviously as explicit as that, but often subconsciously I go, geez, that's what I didn't tell someone what I really wanted them to do.
Well, you do. I have to say, you do seem very content. And that's a word that I think is slightly underappreciated, that you're like, actually, contentment is literally all we're looking for. You can kind of, there's loads of big, shiny words that we're striving for a lot of the time, but there's a kind of often an emptiness when you get there. And contentment is just this beautifully solid, rounded sense. And it feels like you've kind of nailed it.
There's another word I love as well, which is pleasant. Pleasant. Because I think... and I see it myself, I think I reflect back on the past and I'd kind of go where we might have been more interested in excitement and happy and those emotions.
Yeah.
And now, that sense of, that was a really pleasant day. That can be, because it's really, it's that, I feel like I can be open and I can be easy and I can be gentle with myself, which is a really nice thing. Whereas excitement, sometimes you pay the price for it because, you get exhausted and your nervous system is shagged or something. So I think there's many different things. But I was going to say one thing back to that thing you said that we seem to, whatever. The thing which is interesting is when people come meet us, people are where we are ourselves. And just as many people who would think we're weirdos as think we're great. And at this stage, when people come and meet us, and they might have followed us on social media, they go, geez, you're the exact same. I thought you were only acting or something. Yeah. And there's no fucking way you could act like, our lives are way too full on. It's
exhausting to be acting.
Yeah, to be a performer, no.
Yeah.
But I think so much of what you said boils back to gratitude. And I think it's ultimately the more we can... slow down, appreciate it. And I think that's what we get from the sea most days, is that sense of back to the present moment, back to suddenly you kind of goes, oh my God, I can hear all this stuff and I can see this stuff, and suddenly your senses are alive. And I think the more we all collectively can experience the present moment as opposed to the moment that we're projecting on with our worries of the future or stuff that we're dragging from the past, the more we can connect in with that sense of presence, that sense of contentment. And
feel that wholeness not as something we're striving for, but as something we can cultivate ourselves.
And that's the
challenge. Human beings,
and that's the challenge, I think, because as we kind of acknowledge, there's so much social conditioning of more, bigger, better, faster, all these kind of things. Whereas underneath it all, you don't need that much. A few hugs, and a pat in the back to tell you're great, a dinner, and a few mates, and you're winning. A cuddle every now and again, and sure, listen, you're elected.
That's what God used to say.
I haven't heard that saying in so long. You're elected. I love that. Okay, do you have a present you're most grateful for? So something a bit frivolous. I know it's not on brand, but go with it.
The chocolate pellets. I love chocolate. Okay, so I love chocolate. I've been making bean to bar chocolate for a few years now, and...
You've been making what?
Bean to bar chocolate for a few years now, and I love the romance of it and the allure of it. Often we get sent stuff and you kind of... There was a time when I was really excited when stuff would go, I can't wait to open it. Then most people are looking for you to kind of do a story or to do something about it.
No such thing as a free lunch,
pal. But then yesterday we opened a box, or Sarah opened a box, and it was full of chocolate. It was just like, the excitement. And it's really nice chocolate, and it's got nice pictures of interesting people on it. It's called Islands Chocolate Buttons, and they're delicious.
Thanks for that box, the Islands Buttons.
And Dave was calling them chocolate pellets, so big shout out to the Islands Chocolate Pellets. They're delicious.
Yeah.
What about you, Dave? Have you got a gift that you can remember?
Okay, what I'm really grateful now is I'm learning how to build. I'm learning
how to...
What? Well, DIY.
Lego.
We moved house recently and I've started collecting tools And like last night, I made my own floating shelves. You know those floating shelves. So it was just so much fun. There was so much problem solving and power tools, which is also fun. And then the satisfaction of actually, in the end, I got it up and it was nearly level. And no one could see that it wasn't quite level, and just that satisfaction.
And it's now holding one little small cup.
Yeah, it's
of
holding 5 glasses. It's holding 5 glasses and 4 cups. But, I think that sense of learning, I think that sense of thing that like I feel like it's so innate in us, that building and
working with our hands.
Working with our hands, and it's almost like I feel like I'm remembering these things. You know the way you often say, like, I'm remembering how to bake bread. It's like it's so intuitive in our DNA, and I feel like building structure and that kind of thing. I feel like that basic kind of primitive instinct connecting to those things. So that wasn't like frivolous.
That.
But
you guys have got quite deep. It used to be all about vegetables and porridge, and now it's like real, proper philosophical stuff. I'm into it.
Dreamers. It's always there. We just didn't really show it.
You just remembered it.
Yeah. There you are, exactly. Well said.
Which I'm all about, by the way. And I sound like an absolute crackpot when I'm talking about being off the land and all of that. But I do, I really genuinely believe I might have been a druid in a former life.
I could 100%.
Yeah.
I could see you being a
high priest,
wailing in the forest. Yes.
Angela, I'd follow you. I'd happily come to one of your ceremonies.
You'd be elected, you would.
Oh, I'd be more than elected.
It'd be a content and pleasant experience.
Good luck, lads. You're an absolute treat.
Cheers, Angie. Your gas. Absolutely.
Big thank you to the happy pair, Steve and Dave. I mean, if that conversation doesn't fill you with energy, I don't know what is. Maybe a dunk in the sea. We are almost at the end of the series, gang, so you must catch up if you have let slide a couple of episodes. What has been your favourite so far? Do let me know at Instagram or on Twitter at Angela Scanlon. You can also follow the twins at The Happy Pair. Their latest book, Vegan Cooking for Everyone, is out now and it's absolutely genius. There's also a link in the bio down below, and we will be releasing the final episode of the series next week. It's a good one. Comedian Catherine Ryan is here to finish us out for this series. So do subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Spotify or Google Podcasts to make sure that you don't miss that. And there's always, which you've been loving and I love, the thanks that got away, mini pods, your letters about the thanks that you never got to give. So feel free to send in more of those. If we don't use them this time round, we'll definitely use them next series, and the details for that are below. You can also subscribe to my weekly newsletter. Just click in the link of the show notes for a Sunday dose of reading. A little bit of inspiration, hopefully. Thanks to my lovely producer Louise Mason at Rethink Audio, who recently had an appendicitis issue and trooped on for the record like an absolute warrior. So big up my girl Louise. See you all next week. Have a delicious week. Love you.